Welcome to Coffee Time, the internet show where three lifelong friends enjoy a cup of coffee or tea and talk about anything and everything, what the word says about it and what the world says about it. Let's get brewing. Hello.
Hey.
My name's
Hello.
Evan. That's Andrew. That's Ian. We're not in the same room, but I pointed at him anyway. Welcome to the discussion. Today we're talking about a topic that me and Ian have been, what's the right word? Observing.
Cooking up.
Observing in our environments, in our worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, everybody lives their own world and we're in our own world. But looking out, seeing a little something, and we're calling it generational decline. Is that what it actually is? We're going to talk about it. But first,
Yeah, that's
let's
the
get
discussion.
into the discussion. So I'll start with a little update. Trying to think about even like what's even happened in my life since then. Oh my gosh, we did a diet. We're on this diet. Ian, I'm stealing it from you.
No. Okay, go ahead.
So we're doing this thing called a slow carb diet. And it's just like not eating sugar or carbs. So any flour, even whole wheat. No whole wheat, no flours, no breads, no nothing, no potatoes. Nothing that makes you happy in food.
Yeah. Yep.
So just like lots of protein, beans, and vegetables. No fruit.
So
You can't have
many
fruit.
beans,
You can't
man.
have anything. And that it's for 6 days. And then on the 7th day, and we're doing it on Sundays. I think Ian's moving it to Monday this week, but on Sundays you can eat whatever you want, as much as you want, and everything. So that's my short little update. We're doing a little diet. We're doing it for 28 days. And yeah, it's been we're 1 week and 2 days into it.
Woo.
Yes.
That's impressive.
out of 28 days.
You getting there?
So we're like
Yeah, we're like 20.
we're
We
getting
only have
there.
20 days left or less.
Yeah.
19 days left.
Okay, my turn. I'll touch a little more on that diet thing. Starting at the beginning of that diet. That was a tough couple of days, man. all I ate were beans and eggs. And bean salad. It was horrible.
Hey, you like the bean salad for mom. Say it for mom.
I liked the bean salad, Mom.
The first day.
The first day.
What did
But
you
then I
say?
had,
Ian?
like-
What did you say, Ian?
About the beans?
Yeah.
It was too much.
I could eat these beans every day. That's
so
what you said.
when we brought the beans to work, I was like, hey, man, Evan, I think I could really do this. I could eat this bean salad every single day. And the next day came and I pulled out the bean salad and I about threw up. It was so bad. But yeah. The diet's actually a lot easier now. It's actually easier to eat clean than it is to eat junk food now. We've reached
Sugar's really sweet.
We've gone over the hump.
Yeah.
Yep, sugar's almost too sweet.
Wow.
The way I feel on the diet versus the way I feel eating junk is like night and day. So, and I'm actually cooking good meals like omelets and actually making lunches, not just beans and eggs. So that was a lot.
It's good.
Labor Day was great. We ate chicken wings and played pickleball. So great
That
holiday.
sounds awesome. Yeah. Pickleball
So,
is great.
That's my update.
I'm glad it's going well for you guys. I'm glad that it's like
Yeah.
beneficial. Because I was worried that you were gonna do this diet and then you were gonna get like somewhere and you're just gonna be like, nothing's happening. It's not helping us.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's
Everybody's lost weight, which is kind of the
Yep.
point for this
Yeah.
phase. So
which is
Yeah,
good.
we've all lost. Yeah.
It's great. Loose leaf update on my part. I have been working a whole lot. I'm very thankful for that. It's not like full-time at one job. It's full-time hours, 40 hours in a week throughout multiple different things that I'm doing. So I'm working at a coffee shop. I bake stuff there. I'm training as a barista on Thursday. Super excited for that. I am working at a wedding venue with my younger sister and some friends. That's been a good time. We get to go to a lot of weddings, almost too many. And then aside from work, today I got to hang out with my nephew. in the afternoon, which is great. He's almost 3 years old, but he's the sweetest kid. Typically, kids in their toddler phase are nightmares.
Tyrants.
Yeah, they're
Literally.
tyrants. But he is so sweet. He's got a gentle voice. He's super nice. I went to put him down for a nap, and he just said yes. I'm like, can you brush your teeth? Yeah, man. Like, he was just chill. So
Let's go, dude. That's how you do it.
he's cool. And last thing, this weekend I get to go camping for the first time in my life. Here's the thing. I have lived in Colorado for my whole life, and I've never gone camping. So I get to go
And he calls himself
this
a
weekend.
Coloradian.
I'm from the plains. It's different. I'm from Colorado, where everybody lives in the mountains.
No.
Yeah. So that's my loose leaf update. And
Nice.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys what we are drinking. It's a fire recipe. So we kind of workshopped this drink for this episode. It's called the John Crops. That's like a super neat.
Just smacked my mic. Sorry.
You
about
get. You get. That's like a super niche. Ian's holding it up right now. Evan is. You got the same cup. That's cute.
They have apples on them.
Those are nice. Dude, that's perfect. That's what the drink is. So, John Crops is the name of a cartoon character who is made out of produce, vegetables, and fruits. And this is meant to be a fall drink, which just reminds you of something fresh. And the way we do that is it is Honeycrisp whipped coffee with brown sugar, cinnamon, candied apples on top. So, I'm going to walk you through this recipe. I won't give you the full recipe. Full recipe will be released on our socials, probably Instagram and TikTok. And we have a video for that. You can kind of watch the steps. It's a pretty easy drink to make. The main ingredients you need are Honeycrisp apples, brown sugar, cinnamon, and any other fallish spices you like. And then heavy whipping cream. Those are the main things you'll need. So, there's 3 parts to this drink, 3 layers. The first layer is your coffee base. And if you've made whipped coffee before, you know what you're doing. You just take some instant espresso, instant coffee, put that in some either hot water with sugar, equal parts, or in some cream, and then whip that up until it's nice, creamy, but still pourable. That's your base. Then you're going to make Honeycrisp simple syrup. So you'd make a simple syrup as you would normally, but instead of white sugar, you use brown sugar. Throw in some cinnamon sticks, some cardamom, maybe some cloves if you'd like those as well. And then you throw in 3 chopped up Honeycrisp apples. And you let those sit in there until you have a nice syrupy, thicker texture. Strain out the syrup and set aside the apples. And then you're going to take some of that syrup, a couple tablespoons, put that in some heavy whipping cream, whip that up until it's a whipped cream. And that's the next layer. That goes right on top of your coffee base. At this point, you add ice, and then you throw some of those apples on top. You garnish with some powdered cinnamon and maybe some of the sticks that you had from the syrup as well. So be sure to check that out on our socials. None of us are actually drinking that right now. Actually, maybe Ian
we
is.
did. We did.
Yeah,
we both
me
did.
and Evan are.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful drink. It's September now, so we figured we'd do a fall drink. And if you know who John Crops is, plus 10 points. This drink's on us. So that
Also
is
drank all
our
mine
recipe.
before we started recording.
Yeah,
Me too.
it's-
I'm
it's
down.
gone.
I'm down to the apple.
It's gone.
It
It's
might be
tasty.
just because it's so good.
Yeah.
It is delicious.
There you
We
go.
actually made a test drink, so we had a bunch of leftover ingredients. We had leftover syrup. We froze our apples. We had some extra cream, so we were able to whip up the drink pretty easy. The ingredients, like the extra stuff, like the apples and the syrup, they're easy to keep for a while, so you can make
Mhm.
this drink for a few weeks easily.
Yes.
So-
Yes. Definitely
Yeah,
recommend it.
Andrew added a couple ice cubes, but we didn't have ice cubes, so we did the frozen apple in there instead.
Mm-hmm.
That's clever. Look at that. There you go. Even better. Yeah, it's a good drink. So definitely try it, you guys. I'm sending it over to you, Ian. I think you're going to tell us about the Didar today.
The Didar.
The Didar.
The Didar is pretty new to the show. We just wanted a way to make sure that we're keeping ourselves accountable and keeping you guys on track too. By keeping you guys on track, we mean just helping you guys to not only quote what we're saying biblically. So we got 3 rules. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Do not quote our understanding of the Bible. We're trying to bring our faith a lot more up front. We're trying to be much more up front with it in the season. So just trying to bring the best of our knowledge and what the Bible says, but we definitely encourage you guys to fact check, which is our second rule. Read the Bible. Do your own research before you come to your conclusion, because we could have said something that's a little off, which when it starts a game of telephone, that little off can go a long ways off. So, fact checking, which leads right into the third one. Do your research, which I just mentioned. So that's our DIDAR quick and easy rules, guys. Boom.
Boom. I hit the table. I'm sorry for all my listeners. Just boom. Anyways, well, let's move on to steeping. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about, as I mentioned in the beginning, a little topic we're calling generational decline. Is it actually a thing? Are we just making it up? Is everybody choking?
I just looking at you.
He's like trying to get the apple out of the bottom of his cup, and he's like,
Yeah.
You guys should have seen me earlier, dude. It like fell on my face. Got all my glasses.
I ate my apple before we started for that reason, because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do it. But I had like my cup up by my mouth, and I was like really shaking my arm to get it in there. But anyways,
Show us what that looks like.
I'll share you guys a meme opportunity and move right in to this generational decline. So I'm gonna kind of give you guys the premise here, give you kind of what I've been seeing, and then we can have a discussion about it and maybe bring in some of the Bible and some biblical viewpoints on it, because I do see it in the Bible, and even just like through just normal life. And so it's like everywhere that I'm seeing this, but I might just be seeing something that's not called generational decline. And it might be called something else because people are smarter than me. But
this is our show. We do whatever we want.
Exactly. We're going to call it that, and that's what it is. Fact check. Big green box with a check mark in it. Generational decline.
Done.
Check fact. Check fact? Fact
Check fact.
checked. All right. To start. So the idea was like, I've been watching like all these old movies, and I've been watching like, obviously going through the Bible, and just like hearing these old ideas and thinking about like where we were and where we are now. And the main thing that really triggered this in my mind was I started working with my dad, and he does construction work. And one of the things that he's always mentioning is that like, there's not really people who know how to do this anymore. And like, but back in the day, you would just kind of do what your dad did. So you would like learn, and then usually you'd be better than the person who taught you how to do it. And then you would teach the next generation, and they would slowly just get better and better and better. And what I've seen is that more people are moving towards like working from home or doing things online. And not saying that those are necessarily bad things. It's just that we've kind of shifted too far to one side, I think. And we're losing the quality that we used to have in certain things like construction work and clothes and manners and the way we talk to each other and respect. And we're losing all those kind of things because the generation before us didn't teach us. And so that's kind of the premise, is like, because somewhere someone decided to stop teaching their children, we've like lost a piece, and we're declining. Not saying that we won't come back or that we haven't improved in some areas, just like in certain areas that I've seen, it's just like, it seems like we've gone down a notch. Like the way we talk to each other and respect one another, just in general, seems to be less. We don't care about people around us. Clothes, like every time I look at an old show that's in black and white, everybody dressed so nice.
Dude, so nice. Yeah.
I was like, dude, these guys are like sharp. And it always like inspires me. I'm like, man, they always look so good. And then I was watching this show. It's called, a shout out to someone who probably will never listen to this, but the Korean Englishman. jolly, but they're just like the way English people talk. I'm just like, you guys talk so proper, and I want to teach my kids to talk proper and have respect, and like the way they use their words have purpose, and it's not like a 50-word vocabulary. Wow, I don't know how to speak. Again, that's my problem. I feel like, but I think I could do better, and I could teach my generation at least better or something.
Right. Yeah.
So language, family, like the family structure, how like now 2 parents work most of the time. And it's out of necessity, I think, because everything's so expensive right now. But kids lose parents, and they're tired, which makes sense. But then kids don't get raised, and then they don't get taught how to do things properly, and it's just a big snowball effect. So I'm just saying, like, I hope that the Lord will give me an opportunity that when I do get married, that one of us can stay home. Because I just think it's important, especially when we have kids. Like, it's important for something like that to happen.
Yeah.
And then food. Because we were on our diet, I was just noticing how, like, our food, and of course I've heard a bunch of different podcasts and different theories and everything on our food. And, after the Cold War, or during the Cold War, there was like a big, like, give all your resources to the, store them up and do all these things. And they started like rationing out food and stuff. And they started putting vitamins and minerals and added things into your food so that it would last longer and give you nutritional value. Well, every other country quit doing that once the war was over, except America. And if you like look at the data sheet, which I'll try to find to put in the show notes, I don't have it right now. The spike in like obesity and cancer and disease went up in America and stayed the same everywhere else.
Whoa.
It's super crazy.
That's
So just like those kind of things where it's like we're leaving Whole Foods behind for convenient fast foods, but also just the stuff at the grocery store is not great for you unless you really look hard for the good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my little beginning part, and we can have a little discussion about it. So anybody have any thoughts on anything that I had mentioned there?
Yes. I think I've seen it in a lot of ways, but I think I didn't realize how many other places you can see it, which you pointed out. Which I'm like, man, that's interesting. It goes a lot deeper. Like what we called the decline for the show. Just like affects every aspect of like your everyday life, which is crazy. Bonkers, man.
Yeah, for sure. Andrew, you raised your hand.
I was going to say essentially what Ian said, a couple nuances, but yeah, the fact that if there is a decline, it's a decline that is like pervasive. So like each part of our life, at least, are we consolidating this to like a generational decline worldwide or in the West, like North America, United States?
I think it's worldwide, but I see it mostly at home because that's where my eyes are.
That's where we are.
That's my environment, yeah.
Right. So from what we
I
can
think it
see
is
in
everywhere,
our environment,
because if you think about how far we've also progressed, and you look at the rest of the world and how far behind some people are, I feel like that's a decline in itself, just because we have the ability to give people, not necessarily technology, but in certain ways technology, like running water and food and how to grow things and to teach other countries, especially like poverty-stricken countries. And most of it has to do with like, obviously government, tyrannical government leaders who are holding back a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think that that's a decline in itself. If you want to think worldwide, I guess, that we have the technology and the ability to do things, but we choose not to do it.
yeah. Which I wonder if like that could just be a product of the way things have gone, which I guess you could call a decline, like the fact that the world is as, what would you say, individualistic as it is, or at least self-preserving. When you look at United States, a lot of things have been self-preservation. A lot of the choices, I guess.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I think that's a lot of countries, and it makes sense, especially from a governmental standpoint, that your government would try to protect the people. That's kind of one of the functions of the government. But yeah, so we're talking a national, from what we've observed, from what you've observed, decline.
Community.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'd say more, obviously America, but like in my circle, just from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Even just, I was talking, me and Ian went out to a house. We were doing a trim and finish inside of a house. And the siding guy was there. And we were talking about the setup crew and how they're just like these young guys who were never taught how to do it. And so they need to learn. But there's not a lot of people out there who can teach them how to do it right and do it well. And so it's like, there was like this weird gap that happened where like there was progression and there was a passing down of knowledge and all this kind of stuff. And it just, somewhere it dropped. And now like, because like all the trades went away for a little while, there's like a 30-year gap of trade workers that are missing. And so all the older people who knew how to do things really well are all retiring in the next like 2 years. And the new people who are coming up, who are willing to actually work in the trades, aren't able to learn those things and have to start basically at the bottom.
Whoa.
Oh, so
And
it's
that's what I'm
almost
saying.
like
Like,
a reset
right.
in knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I have an electrician friend. When I lived in Wyoming, he mentioned the same thing. He said, there's either really old guys here or 18-year-olds. There's no one in the middle. There's like this huge gap that just decided that they were going to do something else.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of
And it's
knowledge
just interesting.
lost.
And I don't even know if there's like data out there. I think there were some articles, I could try to find them, that mention that like trade work needs to come back. Like people need to come back and do some of the trade work.
Right.
Because everyone's retiring, and then who are you going to call? Some like 18-year-old newbie who wants to come fix your toilet? Like, I don't know if you'd want to do that necessarily.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or you have old guys that have to work way past their retirement age because no one knows how to do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like that weird thing where like it's not really the younger person's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it like resets, like Andrew said. So like they don't know how to do something, but they'll keep learning how to do it better. And then they'll take the knowledge that they learned and pass it on to somebody else, and that person will do it better. And that's when the incline finally starts.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they have to like relearn how to do it, not as well as the person who previously did it, but like start from ground zero, basically.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Which is daunting, I suppose. And I guess there is mutual responsibility for the people who are missing, right? And I don't know if you could say should be training the next generation of, let's specifically refer to trades workers, electricians, plumbers, contractors, things like that. These younger people who are coming in, they have the responsibility to have a hard work ethic and be willing to learn for themselves because they didn't have that training. But there's also responsibility and accounting to give for the people who haven't done the training. And so I think the key elements for the younger generation, if there is such an observable gap that is actually why there's a lack of knowledge in the trades fields, I think that they have the responsibility, our age people have the responsibility to get after it and do the hard work to learn and kind of close that gap of knowledge for the sake of being able to serve people, but also for the sake of younger tradesmen who will come under us who need to be taught. And then it's not like an up and down, like I learn everything, I keep it to myself. You have to start from ground zero, this generation, and so on.
Right.
That specifically was one of the points I was going to bring up, because it's like when the Bible talks about the church body, specifically like Christians, like we should come together and be as one, sharing all of our knowledge, sharing our money and resources, all that kind of stuff, so that no one's without. I'm like, man, that's just such a good way to do things. Not necessarily like everybody needs to come together and share their money, because I think socialism in a fallen world is horrible. But knowledge is one thing that we can share, and I don't think it needs to be on a computer screen. I think it needs to be like passed down, if that makes sense.
Right. Like
So
studied together.
yeah, so like built into the next generation through relationship, which is
Right.
why more responsibility would be held to the generation that's missing in trades, for example, than for the younger generation, because the younger generation can't get the same experience that they would from in-person training as they can from online or from learning it on their own, you know?
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
And it's my generation, the millennials, that disappeared. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was like a technology boom, like the electronic revolution or something, you know? Like something happened where it disrupted something. Or maybe life was just good in the 90s and we didn't feel the need to like have to do that. Like, oh, we could just go get a regular job because gas was under $1 and you know, you could go buy groceries for under $100 for the whole month. You know, like it's like, oh, I just had to get a regular job because I could do it and it'd be fine, and I could buy a house. I bought a house, you know, in whatever year that was, 2013 or 14. You know, working a normal like regular job.
Yeah.
Can't do it anymore. I can't. I have to I have to move up.
Yeah.
Progress, but then I don't have the skills and the knowledge. So I don't know if it's like an environmental thing where like that saying where it's like, Ian, you know the saying, I always mess it up. They're like hard times make strong men, and strong man make good times. Good times make weak men.
Make weak men. Weak
And
men
weak
make
men make
hard times.
hard
And hard
times.
times make strong men.
Like it's that kind of I don't know if it's that. I don't know if that's what it is.
I think that pattern makes sense to the extent that when we get comfortable and there's no necessity, it's easy to take your foot off the gas, right? Because you're coasting. And so maybe what happened, if there's, you know, like you said, an electronic revolution, that I would say has increased the ease and comfort of life. And we see this biblically as well. When Israel starts to prosper, they become less dependent on the Lord. In their prosperity, pridefully saying that they're the ones who earned it for themselves when they never really were the ones who did it. They definitely weren't. And because of that prosperity, they started getting way off track because there was, in quotes for those who can't see, in quotes, no need for the Lord, right? Because we're comfortable. We have what we need. There's, you know, I don't need.
Right.
There's like not a, what's the word? Like a receiving antenna. There's no reason for me to need the Lord or depend on Him if I've got everything I need in abundance and I'm comfortable.
Right.
And there's also no need for me to get uncomfortable by working hard, by stretching my mind and things like that, which I think that's probably
dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
That's what you see a lot in today's world, where people just want everything the world has to offer, and if you have everything the world has to offer, then their idea is that they don't need the Lord, because what else could He have to offer? But they're missing like the most important thing, you know. So
Yeah.
So that's like work related stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we could also, like in food, I guess we could talk about that. But I was thinking more, I don't know how to say it because I dress horrible. But because I wear like sweatpants all the time and like t-shirts. But man, I miss like looking back on old pictures and just seeing how nice people looked. Just how nice people looked all the time.
Yes.
Like it didn't matter what you looked like or anything. It was just like, you just dressed nice.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, yep.
Now we're
Go
in the
ahead,
yoga
Ian.
pants generation and the gray sweatpants, and I just don't think it's better.
No.
Is it more comfortable? I actually don't know because I've never lived in that you know, I've never had
Right.
a really nice pair of slacks with like a really nice button up, like we
But
used to
they're
have.
like, yeah, and their slacks were like roomy, like they were loose on the legs, so they looked comfortable. I don't see why you would be
Mhm.
uncomfy.
Mm-hmm.
But
What do you
I don't
think,
know.
Andrew?
It's
Do you
just
think we've
it's
progressed in clothes, or how did you go? I think in a lot of ways there's good things. I think individualism in like dressing so your personality comes out. Like I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's
But I just miss. I don't know what I do.
Yeah. I think so. There's an increase in individual or in opportunity for expressing your personality. So you can get shirts with captions, words, prints, pictures, a band that you like, a movie that you like, quotes. You can have a Bible verse on there. Those things are good, but also because there is individual expression, that's pretty dangerous. Because that also gives people the choice to choose their level of modesty, the content of what they wear or don't, and that's problematic. I would say we've increased in comfort, we've decreased in quality,
Mm-hmm.
we've increased in individuality, we've decreased in modesty, and then we've increased in quantity of possessions and decreased responsibility of ownership. So now we have a whole lot more. It's comfortable. We can wear whatever we feel like wearing, which is, it's just, there's problems with that we could talk about for sure. We don't have to go into that right now. And so I would say I feel nostalgic toward that time when I watch movies like that, because if I could have like 2 pairs of pants, 2 pairs of shoes, 2 suit jackets, and a nice hat, I'm good. But
Dude. Oh.
yeah.
you wear that nowadays, and it's like, whoa, who's this guy trying to be? So
Well, a lot
Right.
of-
They're like, oh
I
man,
respect. Every time I see one of those guys like
me too.
at church, I'm like, dude, I respect that guy.
I wish we were all dressing like you.
Uh-huh.
But I think the other issue, there's so many factors into it. Because I think,
Well, obviously, yeah.
in my opinion, I think we declined a little bit. But I think we are starting to incline, because you can see we hit this weird gap where it was like only relaxed clothes. You wear like baggy pants, baggy shirts, a hat, big shoes, tall socks. And it wasn't like, it was kind of messy looking. But I feel like we're starting to incline again, because people are starting to mix the two.
Mm-hmm.
So like a casual shirt with really nice pants that are like kind of baggy but look stylish still. So I guess it's like back to the work thing where like, in a way, I don't know, in a way they weren't like taught like this is the right way to dress, but they're starting to figure it out again. Like this is a nice way to dress, but on their own way to figure it out.
Well, I guess
And-
you'd argue, who's to tell me how I'm supposed to dress? You know?
Yeah, that's so true. That's true.
I hate that so much. It's like nothing guides anybody's life anymore, you know? It's just
Right.
like
except
whatever
for
I want,
themselves.
however
Yeah.
I want. Exactly. It's me. It's all about me.
Yeah.
Which actually we talked about that at church too. It was about anger, but anger is very selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, inwardly focused.
Mm.
Yeah.
You make good points, Ian. Like, there's like a dip. I think there will always be problems with how we dress. I think that the things that are bad will increase, but I'm hopeful that the things that are good will increase. So,
Right.
like you
Capybara coming soon.
said,
One day.
one day. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm just gonna agree, nod my head, and go along with it. But yeah. So you make good points. I would agree with you there.
And like another thing is like, I say like a lot. I'm sorry, guys. I need to be better at that.
We'll have a little counter on your video.
Yeah,
Tally.
it's like 357. But dressing nice is also more expensive, so the market has taken advantage of that. Dress cheap and it doesn't look as nice. But if you wanna
watch
look
any fashion
nice-
show, Ian, it's about
all-
getting 2 pairs of pants, 4 shirts, and a suit jacket and a nice hat. And then you just mix and match them and you have a whole outfit for a month.
It's an investment. Like, I'm going to pay for nice clothes that'll last a long time rather than paying for cheap clothes that I'll have to buy again and again. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. The market is a big factor.
Staying the same.
Yeah.
In some ways. Like, you dress really nice and you respect. I feel like it's like almost good for your soul almost to dress nice. Like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, let's dress up and go out. And like, how much fun do you have when you dress up and you go out and you feel good about yourself and like other people recognize you and you make a statement in the world. But usually when you dress kind of sloppy and stuff, you just kind of
feel a little
blend
off,
in
like you don't,
with everybody.
Right. It's almost honoring in a way to dress well.
Right. Now
it
there
seems
is
that way, but I don't know.
Yeah. There is if we were to go back in time, even in the 40s, 50s, you have you have classes of people who have access to types of clothes. Some people who don't. And so I don't know if there is it's hard to say if there's an inherent morality within nice clothes. Like, nice clothes are better and sloppy clothes, comfortable clothes, whatever you'd want to call them, are not. Because there's people who, like, especially because of the market today, won't be able to afford that. Like, it's just, number one, it's a poor investment if you're trying to, be a good steward of your resources and not spend it all on yourself. It doesn't make a ton of sense to, like, go and blow $3,000 on a wardrobe, especially if the idea is to exalt your image.
Elevate yourself.
Right? Yeah. And so if there was a standard
Vanity.
and it was like, hey, no vanity, I think that's a problem that's addressed in some of the early churches, is that people who were wealthy and could show it, they were the ones who were honored. And then the people who had very little, they were just like, yeah, you can sit at my feet, and that's wrong. That's a wrong heart.
I don't know, man. Walmart's stepping up their game.
Dude, they are, dude. They've got some pretty good bargain deals.
That's why I'm saying I think and this is towards the end and we can come back to it, but I think there is an incline coming. But the part that I think hasn't or isn't there yet is what we talked about in the beginning, which is like people mentoring other people. Like, there's not really there's not an example. Things are just kind of shifting. And like the younger generation wants these things that used to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Or something. I don't know what it is.
Which
it just seems
interesting.
That way.
Yeah. It seems like
interesting.
Our generation, my generation, is looking backwards, whereas your generation, Evan, was all about looking forwards and not as much backwards. Not you necessarily, but like a generational trend.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's about. That is really interesting. So.
And then one more thing before we go into maybe the positive, because I think that even when you read like Lamentations, which is a depressing book, it's just super depressing. In the middle of it, there's this nugget of hope. And so I think we should talk about hope. But before we get there, there's one more thing, because it seems to be a huge deal right now. And it's your generation. It's your generation.
Mine.
But our language.
Yep.
The evolution of language. Have you ever watched any old black and white TV show?
Yes. Yep.
Dude, their language was elevated.
Proper.
It was proper. It was like unique. Like they used the right words for things. They could express themselves without having to like pause and think about what word should I say for that. They just like talked right. I don't know what it was about it. And I still think English people do this really well. Like anytime I hear an interview or anything that I've seen, like an English person talking, it just seems like they have this like education behind their voice. Like they just talk really well. Andrew's really good at it. He's not English. But he talks really well. And
he does.
So
I think.
So what do you think about that, guys? What do you think about language? Do you think we're in an incline or a decline?
Ian?
I don't know. We're in kind of this stagnant. I think we're like in the middle.
Elaborate.
Because like I don't know how to explain it. Like we know what everyone's talking about. We've almost created this poor, strange language by twisting and bending words to explain the same thing in 15 different ways. But I can use that one word to explain like 15 different things and you'd know what I'm talking about. So there's this weird like decline in larger words, like a more vast vocabulary, but this strange kind of crooked incline of like it's simplified. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's
Andrew?
I would agree. So we function so much on using just synonyms or just slang with different intonation and inflection to communicate, a different intention behind what we're saying. So something could be really, really great, and you use a slang word to describe that. Something could be really, really bad. You use a slang word to describe that. And I think that if we were to compare, like Evan said, how we used to speak, clarity, pausing for thoughts to try and collect them, filler words, things like that, there's a noticeable difference, and we are not as efficient in the way we use our words, and also, the quality of the way that we speak. I think a lot of that is due to comfort and ease. It's way easier to just change the way you say one word and use that for a whole bunch of things. It's way easier to do that than to think critically and thoroughly about what you're going to say. And we could talk on and on about words. If we were to just compare like the quality of our use of language in communication without regards for the moral aspect of it, then we would see a decline. And if we were to look at, I think, the moral aspect of it, I think it's always been one of the biggest problems for humanity. And I mean, we see that the tongue is a world of evil among the parts of the body. And no human being can tame it. Even though we've tamed all kinds of animals, we can't tame our tongue. We're always getting into trouble with what we say. And the words that we speak are curiously powerful and regrettably in our hands to use. So,
Google the houseplant project.
Is that where you like talk nice to a plant to see if I don't know. I don't even know what to think about that.
They have like actual research on it. How your words actually have power.
So interesting. Yeah. I mean, you could.
Your words literally have life or death. Life and death are in the tongue. Literally.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And actually, me and Ian were talking about this at breakfast on Monday. And it's kind of separate, but it has to do with the tongue. But we were talking about how my dad's parents, my dad's mom especially, I think, prayed like a lot for her family. Like a lot. And we're like reaping the benefits of that still. And how there's just so much power in that. Like praying and having like your tongue be used for like good things. Yeah. Like my dad there's 11 siblings in his family. And none of them have had like huge catastrophes or anything in their life. And all of their kids have never had anything crazy, like catastrophic happen. And I'm just like, that's like 30 something people. And you're like, or 40 or 50 people or something crazy. It's like, and nothing like, and my dad has all these crazy stories of how the Lord just protected him. I'm like, there has to be like something in prayer that just is so powerful. And using your words to exalt and to honor and, I don't know, protect, I guess.
Yeah. And we hardly ever use it. We talked about how there were some issues that we were like, man, how do we solve this? And this was at the same breakfast. And we were like, the same conclusion is just prayer. Like, that's the most powerful thing that we can do right now is pray.
Mm-hmm.
Use our words.
Yeah.
Because not internal prayers. Saying them. like
Yeah.
with your mouth.
Yeah.
Not that internal prayers don't work. Just something about changing the environment when you pray out loud. Like, so try this. Next time you're like mad, like I was this morning for some reason, if you just like turn on worship music, I don't know if it's like the words they're saying, but the environment changes. There's something
It's the Holy
about
Spirit, man.
putting scripture and words to Jesus and stuff out in the open changes the environment.
Into the air, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when we pray, if it's sincere and from our heart, it's giving what's going on to the Lord and really recognizing our dependency for Him, our depravity, and our inability to do anything right in and of ourselves, that being use our words for good or to help people. And it's also really hard, like you said, if you have emotions and these things, it's not good to keep those internalized. You have to learn, and we're given the responsibility to take the things that we think, which are words, and the things that we feel captive, because those things will become words too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is having that never-ending 24/7 communication with the Lord. 1 Thessalonians 5:16, pray always. Like, it's a super short thing, but I mean, I would agree. I think that I'll leave it there. I was gonna add more. I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
I think it's good. Speak out loud.
Yeah.
That's why when you have your politics on the TV 24/7, your life just feels horrible. I'm just saying.
Yep.
Turn off your
Yeah.
TV
Turn off the news.
and go outside and listen to nature for a little while and just feel the difference.
Look at the good things. Look how beautiful creation is, and how beautiful the world is, and how beautiful, like, what God is putting right in front of you. Look at the beauty in it.
Yeah.
Changes your whole day, your whole week, your whole month, your whole year. It'll change your life if you just stay fixed on God. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the last thing I wanted to chat about was just talk about some positive things. We kind of talked about declines and like, man, it just feels like, sometimes we could be doing better. But I think in a lot of ways we have improved. Obviously, people aren't dying because we don't have indoor plumbing, and we have heaters and air conditioners in our homes and places to live. And this is probably more specifically for the Western part of the world, but climate control and running water, even though it has chlorine and the stuff in it. And
but we have water filters.
I mean, we have water filters. We have like everything you could ever want and need. Like, that's pretty crazy and dangerous at the same time.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, my phone, like, there's so much power in that device where, like, I could do so much good with it, but instead I just brain rot most of the time on it.
Yeah, it's so bad.
I just scroll Instagram and find short little pleasures, instead of using my phone to like start a business or to figure out a way to get trash out of the ocean, or you know what I mean? Like, there's just things that you could be doing that are better for everybody.
Yeah.
And so just finding those nuggets of good, like, what can we do? And I think maybe it's even a challenge for us, because it seems like there's a lot of negative in the world right now. Maybe finding like the good things that are in what we have, and the things that like for food wise, there's so much garbage and junk that you could be eating right now. What if you just picked like one thing to change? Like, you know what? I'm just going to like add a carrot or something to one meal a day, or a fruit or veggies, but it's like, it just feels like we could be doing better about finding the good stuff in things too.
Absolutely.
Being less cynical.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and being a part of the solution.
Right.
Right.
As opposed to just observing an issue, calling it out, and then sitting back, hoping something will change. Right.
Right. And then
Right.
becoming part of the issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like me and Ian had this idea for a clothing company. And I was thinking, man, we could just it could be good and make money. But then like, even just during this podcast, I'm like, man, what if we just made really nice clothes that people could dress really good, but it's also affordable.
Right.
Because everything
I
right now
think
is
it'd
like
be awesome.
$70 a shirt. And you're like,
$80 pants.
yeah. What if you changed
That
what if you flipped
tear
everything?
Yeah.
That's a good
Finding
idea.
something. Finding good.
Mhm. Yeah.
in
Now
people.
here's a question: is if there is a danger in, I think there's extremes. That's how I'll phrase it. I think there's extremes where you're so focused, you have a hyperfixation on what's negative. You become discouraged. You become stagnant because you feel like this is an insurmountable problem and I can't do anything to affect this. Or you become an optimist, which is detached from reality and won't recognize the things which are wrong, won't recognize the true problems of the world and the solution which we have presented to us in Scripture, and will look for other ways to fix that. And I wonder if increasing comfort, like you said, is dangerous. Because if comfort is what's creating this ease of life and a lack of dependency on the Lord, because there's no need for it, there's we survive so much better than we used to as humans. It's almost like in general there's more opportunity for us to do what we want in a self-directed way, and there is less who will depend on the Lord. So I think even in abundance, there's hearts that can depend on the Lord.
I think there's a greater need to depend on the Lord.
Right. Even
During
if
the
it's masked
bigger
by
parts.
comfort. Yeah.
Like,
Right.
There's never, I think that there's never a point where you're not fully dependent on the Lord. Apart from Him, we can do nothing. In Him, we move, live, breathe, have our being. Every breath, every heartbeat, whether we believe in Him or not, whether we worship Him or not, is given by Him. And in comfort or in hard times, we still have the choice to, will we worship Him? Will we listen to Him? Will we be dependent on Him? Or will we become, self-reliant, provide for ourselves, do whatever we want to, follow whatever desire we have, unchecked, unguided. So that's a hard balance. What do you guys think? I feel like that might be part of the decline. I don't know.
I think as like Christians, there's been a lack of dependency on the Lord.
Yeah.
I know you can see it on your Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media platform you use. You just see all these Christians putting their faith and their hope in a president by picking one side or the other. Their hope is in a person on earth.
Oh, if I don't pick this, it's game over. The world's going to end.
It's like, do you not trust that God can do anything He wants with anybody?
Right.
Like, no matter who He puts in office, He's still in control.
Yeah.
Like, no matter who gets in office, He's still sovereign. He still knows the end and the everything. Like, does that make it less, you should still vote and do all those things? Because I think we play parts. Obviously, you read any of the Bible, He uses people, especially Christians and stuff. But
and
I feel like especially in the West, we just focus so much on our hope is in things and people and not God or Jesus.
Right. It's almost prideful to think that we have that control. Like,
absolutely,
almost prideful to say, like, if I don't do this, then I'm going to mess up God's perfect plan.
Yeah.
Like, how, like, that's crazy.
Who are you?
You can't. Yeah, who are you? Exactly. Like, it's almost prideful.
Yeah. It's prideful to think
quote?
you can stop Him.
From church, Ian. God's either gonna. He was talking about Jonah, It's like God's either going to use you for being obedient, and he's going to use you for mission, or he's going to use you as an example in your disobedience.
Yep.
Like he did with Jonah on the boat.
Yeah.
And there's consequences to both sides.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And like the people on the boat believed in God, not because Jonah was faithful at all, but because of the power of God.
Right.
Because like they said, you should pray to your God, and Jonah never did. If you like read that verse, I realized that I'm like, Jonah never
Whoa.
said anything to God. He just said, just throw me overboard.
Throw me overboard.
He didn't like ask God to stop the storm or anything. He just said, I know who's doing this.
Yeah.
Throw me overboard. I'd rather
I'm the
die.
problem. Yep.
I was like, what is wrong with this boy?
I know. Dude, going through Jonah is always just an incredible book if you really study it and like really deep dive into the scripture. It's just an incredible story. I always thought the first time I heard the story of Jonah, or not the story of Jonah, but Jonah taught in a sermon was in Cheyenne. Because I always thought of Jonah as like, this is like the prime example of a Sunday school kids sermon, big whale, boat, all this like crazy stuff that's perfect for kids to keep them entertained. But when you bring it into like when you really study and break it down, it's an incredible book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a clear display of obedience and disobedience, and the fact that we have a choice and the consequences, because there's each decision has natural consequences. Like we're talking about through the generations, the things that we choose to do now will affect the people that come later. Yep. Whether that is something to progress comfort, something which decreases comfort, if we're making comfortable times like that quote, which might make a weak generation, we never know. Again, it's in God's power. So, and control to do with people what he wants.
So there are things that you should be doing above all else, especially as a Christian. Like if you call yourself a Christian, you should be praying for your family and praying for your friends and praying for the world and your leaders and your pastors and your church. Like, is that not an incline? If you're passing like prayers on to the next generation and teaching your kids how to pray and teaching others how to pray and doing those things, like I think that's an incline.
Absolutely.
Like learning to love the Bible, not just like read it because you should read it. It's a good book or
good literature. No,
read it because it's life.
Life. Yeah.
Read it because it's the breath of God. Like if you read the Bible, you get closer to God. Like you just do it,
You're transformed by it. Your mind is transformed. The way you think is transformed. If anything, there's a generational decline scripturally. In the world, we see things are, within humanity, going from less obedient, less care about God at all, to no acknowledgement of his existence, and no care to obey, but rather approving things which are in rebellion to him, and practicing them ourselves. That's the trend. But if the word of God can transform us by the renewing of our minds, as Jesus teaches it to us if we're saved and we have the Spirit, or he's working on our hearts before we're saved, that transforms us. That's going to be what it takes to break a trend like that, right? Is the power of God working in a broken, humble, and willing heart that's going to admit that change needs to happen. And the good news is that he promises that he will if we humble ourselves before him.
Yep.
That's great news. Like, what?
That's great news.
Yeah.
You're telling me there's a way out at all?
Right.
Yeah. Yep. There was a cool neuroscientist that had a quote in a book. And it was about that scripture about renewing your mind. And they were talking about how it like happens in your actual mind. Like, it's not just like your spirit brain, which I think some people, when they read that, they're like, oh, the renewing of my mind is just my spirit growing or whatever.
It's literally your mind.
They're like, you have to, the way your brain works, that like if you decide you want to make bad decisions all the time, it'll just create a pathway to that bad decision all the time. You literally have to renew your mind by killing the old pathway and replacing it with a new one.
which requires an input of new information and removal of that which was causing that pathway. Yeah.
Right.
So that's crazy.
So cool.
That's crazy. That's found in scripture too. Romans chapter 1, we see that God designed into our brains the way that we sin, and the next consequence for sin is more sin, and our brain functions that way, and scripture just witnesses the same thing. And we're just now discovering that through neuroscience. And so that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Like physical. Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
that's
Audible, there was a psychologist that I talked to, and they said, if you feel like you're going to sin or do something, it was just any bad habit, but I feel like sinning is a good one to talk about. They said, audibly say, stop, like 5 times, 10 times. You have to tell yourself to stop. Not in your head, but like out loud. Stop, 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 stop. And it actually disrupts the neurotransmitter, and it'll move it to something else. And so if you're like getting ready to do that thing, you have to say it out loud, but you just say stop, stop, stop. You can replace that word with anything. So if you are a Christian and you want to do this, you could just say Jesus. If you just say Jesus like 5 to 10 times when you're getting ready to do something that you don't want to do, or you're trying to like, stop eating potato chips or whatever, like you can literally do that. But you have to say it out loud, and it stops your brain because you hear something and it disrupts that neural thing. You should just try it next time. You
That's
are
interesting.
like craving something. It's weird, but it has to be out loud. Your ears have to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
I think
Power of the tongue once again.
Yeah.
I think one of the things when it comes to making decisions, or like you said, sinning against God specifically, there is an aspect of that in which using those verbal tactics to take what's going on in your head and your heart, those passions of the flesh, which need to be crucified, bringing them out, separating yourself from it, and saying, okay, here's what I need to do. Here's what my flesh wants. Here's what God wants me to do.
Yep.
And then you make a choice, right? And so I suppose it could be helpful in that way. But, there's a deep issue when it comes to sin, and it's that we want to. We want to.
Yes,
and we have to get to a
Disrupt
place where we would rather obey Christ than sin. And we're never going to be perfect at that until we die and go to be with him, or he comes to get us again. Which is a day I look forward to, because every day I screw up, man. Every single day. And it gets frustrating and exhausting. But, that's the process of growing up, becoming more like him, is choosing him over what I want, over what my flesh wants. And then when I'm encountered with those things that my flesh wants, or things that are wrong that I want to do, taking a step back and saying, okay, man, I need some help here. This is a wrong thing that I want to do. I recognize it's wrong because your word tells me that's wrong. That's, how I know. And I want to love you by the way I listen to what you say. And that requires, surrendering those desires, crucifying the flesh like we're called to do, putting off the old self, putting on the new self, which is constant battle.
Yeah.
Oh, man. One thing that's helped me is realizing that we're on the right side of the chasm now. Like once you've accepted Christ, like you're not on the other side, super separated, you're not like way really far away and lost. You're on the other side.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we sin, we just stare at the chasm and stare at our sin and stare at everything that's wrong when Jesus is right behind us.
Right.
And all you have to do is turn around to him, which is actually the definition of repentance, which is turning to Christ. And so just sometimes you get so caught up on messing up, you hyper-focus on your sin and how horrible you are instead of focusing on how good God is.
Which should make you hate sin, looking at his light, right?
Exactly.
Everything
if
else
you're just
grows
staring
dim.
at him, just stare at him. Yeah. You got to realize you're on the right side.
Yeah.
Just
you can,
so if you have accepted Christ, if you've confessed with your tongue and believe
in your
he
heart.
is who he says he is, you've crossed the chasm, man. Like you're on the
Yeah.
right side. Start focusing on Christ, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. I just always focus on my sin. I focus on the world and how dark and dismal it seems at times and how horrible things are. Like,
Mm-hmm.
instead of focusing on, man, Christ is so good. I can,
Mm-hmm.
and he's given me the ability to bring him into this world, you know,
Right. You've become a vessel.
and make a change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
A mirror can only reflect what it's facing. And so if I'm made to be a vessel and Christ's light, because I have none of my own, is to shine through me, that's going to be really hard if I'm so preoccupied with everything other than Christ.
yeah. Isn't that verse, you're a city on a hill, or a lamp, lampstand in the city on a hill, or whatever. You are the
Sermon-
light of the world. Is that not talking to us as a
It's-
believer?
I think it's referencing us as a believer, as a vessel of Christ.
You're the light. You're the light.
Yeah.
Right.
Because of him
Because
and his light.
he's in us.
Yeah. We were once darkness, but now we are light, live as children of the light. The things which were once darkness are now light because his light has shone on us and becomes a light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. There's just ways we can do it, guys. There's ways we can do it, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just got to start doing it.
Hmm. You got to recognize that there's an
praying more.
issue and recognize where repentance
It's
is
like
needed
first step.
in your life.
Yeah.
Um,
Our church is kind of we're doing a conference. This is the first ever conference they've ever had in like 6 years or 7 years that they've been a church. And their plan is to bring the church into this new season where it's like prayer and worship and the word are just like everything.
hopefully it's not a
Not that
season.
it was-
Center.
Not that it was, no, into like this new era, or I don't know, new forever. He said, this is going to change the church. He said, we're not messing around anymore. We're going to, not that we're messing around. This is one of the best, like, only the Bible and only loving Jesus church. Like, one
Yeah,
of the only
it's
ones
awesome.
I've been to where it's like, they're 100% about Jesus. And their worship is genuine and their word is solid. And it's just, yeah. I'm like, I'm ready to go into that deep
Yeah,
thing. And I want
It's
to,
gonna be cool.
that could be a prayer request for you guys and stuff. But
Okay.
just pray that I'll be willing to do it, willing to dive in
Mhm.
Yeah.
instead of running away, instead of going to
Alright, pick
Tarshish.
it up. Yeah, don't go to Tarshish.
go to
You,
Nineveh.
you won't even make it, man.
Yeah.
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 So I think that's about all I got. You guys have any other final thoughts before I close this out?
I don't think so.
Final thoughts. Reminder of the DIDAR. Do your research, fact check everything we say, and don't take it in and internalize it because there's a chance that the things that we say could be not renewing your mind or transforming your
Yeah.
mind in a good way. We could be
Yeah.
steering you
Yeah.
wrong. So check it for yourself.
Yep.
And then also, don't just check it and then be like, oh man, they were wrong. Like, we need the accountability, which means come to us with that.
Yeah,
So
tell us. We want to hear your guys' feedback. So if there's something we said wrong, tell us. And if there's something you disagree with, we'd love to bring it up and talk about it on,
Mm-hmm.
especially
the
if it's something
biblical
that we
stuff.
believe. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
On the Bible stuff, especially. The other stuff's just some of it's like our clothes. It's just opinions, but
Yeah, like
and
thoughts
observations.
and observation.
yeah, opinions and
exactly.
observations, and we could be wrong.
Yeah. And let us know if you tried the drink.
Oh, dude, the
Yes.
drink, you won't be disappointed.
Guys, this might be. We'll see. I'm planning on cooking up something good for next episode. So
Mhm.
Evan already knows what it is, but I have to
Yep.
perfect the recipe. So
So yeah, again, we talked about just how there's observations that we've seen in the world where it seems like there's some things that are declining. But the good thing is we also see Christ working, and there's inclines in certain areas, and how Christians and believers should always be striving for a deeper relationship with Jesus and a greater impact in the world. And so, with all that said, y'all, that's it. We're done. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Coffee Time. Don't forget, you can hit us up on all of our social media platforms. That's CoffeaTimeOfficial on all of our podcast platforms, CoffeeTime_official on all of our Instagrams, CoffeeTimeOfficial on YouTube, and CoffeeTimeOfficial on TikTok. And that's Coffee, COFFEA, Time Official. Thanks again, and we hope to see you next time.